This is the best Gomu Gomu no Mi theory that I've seen, and I like it a lot. Now, what am I talking about? Before I get to that, if you are an anime-only watcher, I suggest that you skedaddle. I suggest that you bail because you're going to be smashed with a giant tidal wave full of spoilers, and you don't want that. So I'm helping you. I'm your lifeguard. I'm throwing over the goddamn floaty. Get the hell out of the water. Get out! Because there are some dangerous shark spoilers coming your way right now. That being said, now that the waters are clear, the rest of us, let's dive in. In chapter 1017 of One Piece, Who's Who stated that 12 years ago, he was on a world government ship that had the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Shanks and his boys stole it, and Who's Who suffered in jail for many years, probably a decade or so, because of his failure. Okay?
Okay.
This got people, the theory game. Woo! It's raining theories. Hallelujah, it's raining theories. Hey, hey.
What the hell is she doing?
It was raining theories across the board. Woo-hoo-hoo. We had to go to the chalkboard, write up all sorts of stuff. And the theories started flowing. Like a dam just broke. And the theory wave just took over. So, and mind you, it hasn't stopped yet, all right? It hasn't stopped. The river of theory is still flowing for the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Make no mistake. And I got a few myself, but I'm giving you what I think is the best one out of all of them. Now, the thing here, keeping it in the buck, the thing here is it could really be just as simple as collecting devil fruits for their agents.
Take it.
The world government, they go around the globe, collecting powers to give to their agents when they complete successful missions. For example, Kaku and Caulifla in CP9 and Enies Lobby. They completed their long mission and they were awarded with 2 different powers. And so it could be as something as simple as that. However, there is implication here, obviously. A big implication that the world government would send a prodigy agent, like a prodigy Cypher Pole agent, to get it. But again, when he failed, they punished him severely despite his skills. This is the guy that, according to what he was saying, had the same potential back in the day as Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci, yo. That is and Rob Lucci right now is CP0. That is nothing to scoff at, all right? Nothing to scoff at. He's one of the top guys in the Beast Pirates outside of Kaido and the headliners. That is nothing to scoff at all. And yet someone of that skill was treated so poorly because he failed that mission. And CP0 themselves even confirmed that there is one person's death that they must confirm, and that's Who's Who. They have to make sure that Who's Who dies. So let's say in a hypothetical situation, even if the Strats and Samurai did not invade Onigashima, CP0 during the festival would probably still try and take Who's Who's life. Even under Kaido's nose, they would still try and do that. Because as the one guy states, Who's Who escaped from them does not set a good example. Not at all. And also on a side note, I think it also implies too that Who's Who was probably imprisoned in the Holy Land. That's my best bet. I think he was imprisoned in the Holy Land and was probably forced to do some slave work alongside torture and whatnot. Like what we see with King Neptune Company arriving in the Holy Land, where we see them on a moving platform, and underneath the platform, we have slaves that are actually pushing it along. And they thought there was some high-tech stuff. No, it was just slaves. So I get the feeling that Who's Who was probably like one of these people, or at least was imprisoned in Holy Land and treated as a slave and so on, which is why he talks about slavery to Jinbei during the fight. But I digress. The ultimate question here is, why did the government want the Gomu Gomu no Mi? So I've seen a lot of different theories about Gomu Gomu no Mi takes involving Shanks, involving the Gorosei, involving Imu, involving Roger and Sebek. There's a litany of different theories. The list goes on and on. But again, there is one theory I like the most out of all these theories. Not only does this theory tie in a lot of plot points, a lot of subtle plot points that Oda has established in this arc of Wano Country, but also throughout the entire series of One Piece. And not only does this theory hit those plot points very well, but also it keeps the scope of Luffy's character in the Gomu Gomu no Mi grounded in a spot where I think most people would find very reasonable. We're not going too crazy when it comes to the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Now, before we go on, I do want to give credit to two people, Ire or Airspec on Twitch. That is EIERSPECK on Twitch. I think it's German. Airspec? I think so, I'm not too sure. And Wing Zero, very simple, on Discord. So I want to give credit to these two lads because the basis of this theory does come from them. I like to give credit where credit is due, absolutely. And also, hopefully you guys and gals enjoy my content and give me some credit by giving me a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. Thumbs down, thumbs up. I'm not biased, but a thumbs up, preferably, a subscription, and clicking on that bell to join the notification squad. So, right into it.
Let's do this.
The main theory, and hopefully it makes sense, the main theory is the idea that the world government needed the Gomu Gomu no Mi to complete their gigantification experiments via Vegapunk. That, I think, is the best theory for the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And there are hints for this in Wano and, of course, outside of Wano that allude to this idea of Vegapunk needing the Gomu Gomu no Mi to complete his gigantification experiments that, of course, the world government have been trying to get for a while. Now, the first thing I gotta talk about is, unfortunately, but it is what it is, the first thing I talk about is Chopper. Tony Chopper, Mr. Uwu, the merch master of One Piece. Because in chapter 1017, we have the unveiling, the christening, they cut the red ribbon, they throw the bottom at the ship of Chopper's new merch form, which will sell, without a doubt, all right? I'm not knocking on Chopper's skills outside of One Piece. They're the best in the game. Outside of One Piece, in IRL, Chopper is omnipotent. All right, he is the king of One Piece. But in One Piece, okay, I'm sorry. This new form, which is called the Baby Geezer form, okay? This new merch form is the result of Caesar Clown's work on the Rumble Ball. In chapter 1014, within the quick Chopper flashback that we get, Caesar Clown mentions that he could stretch out the quote, in the Viz Media translation, quote, gigantification time to 30 minutes. Gigantification time. Of course, we all know Caesar Clown's attempts to gigantify the kids at Punk Hazard. We also know that Big Mom tried to get him to do that too, but of course, it was all a failure. Caesar Clown has noted during Whole Cake Island and other times that humanity has been trying to gigantify humans for centuries and has failed. Law and Chopper also mentioned this in Punk Hazard. And what's also important, I think, is the hint that I think Oda left within Chopper's Baby Geezer form. Because in Chopper's Baby Geezer form, we have the transition from Monster Point, gigantic, ferocious, at least back in the day, of course not now, because now it's all ooh-woo. Back in the day, Chopper, yo! Komadari, yo! Yo, that was, to this day, by far, the coolest Chopper, by far. That being said, we have that gigantic Monster Point Chopper to Baby Geezer now. The thing here is this. When you look at that transition, it's very, very similar to Luffy's situation with the Gear 3 in the pre-time skip. He'd go into Gear 3, inflate his bones, he would attack, and after a few minutes after using Gear 3, he would shrink and compress down to Mini Luffy.
We got him.
So I think that Baby Geezer is in reference to that idea. And this makes sense given Caesar Clown being an expert on gigantification, one of the few in the series, and of course Caesar Clown advancing Chopper's Rumble Ball and Chopper's abilities. And also, in the same chapter, we get to find out about a group of people that were scientists that Judge was a part of called MADS by Queen. Oh, and even though Caesar Clown is not, at this point in time, he's not known to be a part of MADS, I think it's very safe to say, that Caesar Clown was in MADS. And if he was, then the idea of gigantification links up even more with Vegapunk. And even though this may not mean much, keep in mind that Queen is also an enlarged human. He is several times the size of a regular person. So that may not mean much, but because we're talking about experimentation for Gigantification, and he was a part of a group of scientists that probably dabbled in that, it's not far-fetched to believe that Queen would do self-experimentation trying to gigantify himself, especially when you add on the fact that now we see the guy is a crazy modified cyborg. Now the second thing is, in Wano, Luffy, at the beginning of Wano, has been clearly off-screen, in between Holy Island and Wano Country, continue to further develop his own Deathroot powers. We see in the Urashima fight, with their first blow, with their first clash, Luffy expand his right hand without blowing into it. He does it naturally, just expands, which I think is modeled off of what Katakuri can do with his own Mochi Mochi abilities. No air needed, it just expanded. So Luffy has once again grown in those respects, and we see how it is tied to, of course, gigantifying, expanding, like it's Gear 3 as a whole, a certain part of his body. Now, of course, it's been a while since we've seen Luffy do that, even in this arc, and it might be a one-off, to be fair, but it's in the anime as well as in the manga, so I think it is important to note, absolutely. And I have had my doubts on whether or not Luffy's awakening for his Gomu Gomu no Mi will be in the same vein as Dolphy and Katakuri's, where they start to affect the environment around them. I mean, Luffy's Gear 4, you can say, is also a form of gigantification via the muscle inflation. Earnestly, what Luffy does when it comes to his abilities, a lot of times does involve gigantification in some small respects, but still nonetheless, gigantification. Now, the third thing here would be Vegapunk being mentioned in Wano Country by CP0. When they mentioned Vegapunk had used the lineage factor / blood elements, DNA essentially, to create the artificial devil fruit based on Kaido's abilities. That devil fruit, of course, was deemed a failure, but now that we see Momo using it, I think it's safe to assume at this point in time that Momo is going to play a big role in Wano Country using his abilities. Because CP0 mentioned that, like, oh, thank God it was a failure. Well, hold on now. Okay, he said it was a failure, but was it really? And if it was a failure, why was it a failure? And I said before in the previous video that maybe it was a failure because it was as simple as the design didn't match an actual different design. It could be that simple, and Vegapunk's OCD could be that high, where like he wanted to have the swirls, but there was no swirls. Instead it was dots. Maybe. It could be that simple. But this ties into Luffy in the same vein. Since the Gomu Gomu no Mi was mentioned by Who's Who, and how he was punished for such a long time for failing to get the fruit, and knowing that CP0 wants him dead even now, it is possible that something about the ability itself will come to the forefront in this arc in Wano Country. Another video that I did before, which again would be the awakening. The awakening, or something to that effect, probably. Where, again, his awakening may not be the same as Katakuri's or as Dolphy's. It could be something very, very, very unique and very strange. And what we also know is Vegapunk has fed the pacifista with lasers that are based on Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi. This could be because of, obviously, his own ingenuity and technological skill, that and that alone. I mean, we saw the crazy things before Frankie blew it all up. We saw the crazy things that Vegapunk had when he was a kid in his hometown, his home island. We see that. However, there's another chance here that Vegapunk actually took the lineage factors, the bloodline elements, the DNA of Kizaru and his Pika Pika no Mi Devil Fruit, and used that information, that DNA, to then create the laser function that we see on the pacifista.
Maybe.
Which would be in lockstep with what we see with Momo's fruit based on Kaido's fruit. And also, it was mentioned in SBS, the recent one, where Oda explains the process by which you make the smile fruits. And then he states how Caesar Clown can only go so far, but Vegapunk maybe took it to an even further level, which he probably definitely did. Even though I just said made no sense, I'm gonna stick with it. He probably, definitely did.
You
you.
Absolutely. Now, the fourth thing in this arc that we see that ties to the whole giant thing is the numbered giants themselves. The numbered giants were created in Punk Hazard, but they were deemed to be failures for various reasons. And Big Mom is the one that mentions this fact. But keep in mind that a lot of folks do theorize that Big Mom herself was also the result of an experiment, and here she is now. And also remember, in Punk Hazard, we do have the fire side of the island, where we do see a melted giant's head of some sort. And then we also see on the frozen side, the frozen corpses of the failed gigantified humans. So once again, we have more ties to Gigantification, giants, from Punk Hazard to Wano Country. Even more ties. And now the fifth thing, when it comes to the Gomu Gomu no Mi, when it comes to Vegapunk and Gigantification and so on and so forth, is a massive left field. It's a massive, massive curveball. But roll with me for a second here. Just do. And if you see me, I roll quite well. It's sad, but it's true. So, I want to go to some anime filler.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
This anime filler is the Z's Ambition arc that was done before the Film Z movie. And it was anime filler, and it was bad filler. Absolutely. Though, to be fair, it does have one of the most epic entities in One Piece, that's factual, named Alpacachino. Alpacachino, forever goated. Forever goated. Make no mistake. That is the best part in that filler by far. I love Alpacachino.
Much later.
That being said, at the end of the filler, in episode 578, we have a giant girl by the name of Lily, one of the main side characters of the arc. She goes inside of Luffy, which sounds odd, but it is what it is. She goes inside of Luffy via her mini no Mi, where she can actually shrink herself to a very, very small size. And then she undoes her ability inside of Luffy. And what we see is Luffy turn into a giant as a result of that. It's a weird thing, but it does show in a sense, again, it's filler, and I get it. But it does show that the Gomu Gomu no Mi, in theory, is capable of actually being in giant form, and Luffy being relatively okay. In fact, he goes gear second in that weird, and it's really bad filler, but that's what happens, where he even goes gear second in that gigantic state. If you want to say he has a gear 3, and he can sustain that for every part of his body, therefore a giant Luffy, maybe that could be an awakening for Luffy in the future. It's kind of crazy, but is it impossible? No, because again, filler, albeit filler, did indicate that Luffy could be in a giant form, and he's relatively fine. There are some more things here or there, but I think you guys get the gist of it. The Gomu Gomu no Mi is something that the world government wanted, so they can finally, in theory, complete their gigantification experiments via Vegapunk's skill, knowing that Vegapunk could take aspects of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, replicate that, like what we see with Momonosuke, and that artificial, quote, fail devil fruit, and like what we see with potentially the Pacifista and Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi. I like this theory a lot. Because of, again, its ties to the underbelly plots and mysteries of One Piece, but also, again, it keeps Luffy and the Gomu Gomu no Mi grounded. Grounded in a spot where I believe that a lot of folks are going to be way more comfortable with the Gomu Gomu no Mi's role in the story moving forward, and it's not going off the wall crazy. Because on paper, the Gomu Gomu no Mi kind of sucks. On paper, that power is not special. There are clearly better fruits than the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Katakuri, you could argue, has a better version of that devil fruit. Easily. You can easily argue that without question. But at the same time, because it's not special, it allows for so much creativity when it comes to Oda applying its powers to Luffy in various awesome ways. And it maintains that underdog motif for Luffy throughout this entire journey, where the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it's just rubber. But in so many dope ways, we've seen Oda utilize this underpowered ability, and Luffy has really come ahead with that creativity on Oda's part. But if the Gomu Gomu no Mi is mega special, like it's the first devil fruit and has some crazy, insane, innate abilities, and Roger had it, and Sebek had it.
Here we go again.
Like, for example, some folks theorize that the Gomu Gomu no Mi Imu wanted because the Gomu Gomu no Mi is one of the core things that allows someone to control the ancient weapon Uranus. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It becomes the fruit of fate. And a lot of folks would argue, quite easily, that it is not a good idea for the Gomu Gomu no Mi to have this innate tie to fate and be massively special in so many respects because of Imu, because of Roger, Sebek, and the Gorosei, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. No. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And have it tie to the already established underbelly plots that we've seen in One Piece. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about what Luffy's been doing and what Vegapunk could potentially do. So on that note, let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. I'm gonna see you guys and gals later. Gotta eat some food right now because I'm hungry as all hell. And yeah, the sweat's real. So I'm gonna see you guys and gals on the flip side. Y'all take care, be easy, have a nice one.